I'm ready. Go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Dylan Lonergan. What made him the right fit here, and what did you see him that made you want to bring him to Rutgers?
Yeah, well, we looked at a lot of quarterbacks that were out there, and I just thought his skill set was a good fit for our offense. I thought he had a lot of growth potential behind it, and I liked him as a person.
Where is AJ in his development right now?
AJ's had a really good winter. He's a really hard worker, very conscientious young man, but he's had a really good winter. You know, he just like Dylan and Sean, you know, he needs repetitions out there to learn and grow from. He needs those experiences that we need to have, and so we can put them away back in our memory and be able to draw on them as the season approaches.
Kirk, what have been your first impressions of Stern? Xavier Stern.
Oh, Xavier. Yeah, you know, he's got a great work ethic. He's super smart. He's a tall, strong-arm guy. You know, really the same things I thought when we recruited him. You know, the one thing I never do with the freshman quarterbacks is I just give them the spring to learn and no judgment. Because I know that this offense is very difficult for an inexperienced guy. It becomes very easy as you gain these experiences and more things become instinctual to you in the offense. But at first, it's very difficult. So he's done a great job so far.
Coach, how confident are you right now in the younger receivers filling the void left by Ian Strong, DT Sheffield?
Yeah, I think, you know, when Ian left, you know, Coach and myself and Dave Brock had a conversation, and we all felt very comfortable with the group, very comfortable with where they would be by September, you know, and that was a decision that we had to make, and you know, so I'm very excited about that group. But at the same time, I know it's a race against time. There's a lot of things that we've got to become habits and instincts with those guys between now and September. You know, those guys, those younger guys, you know, they had a couple injuries last year where we would have liked to have gotten them some more game experience last year, and they would have gotten it. I know there was a couple of games that are just thinking in my head that, like, we were planning on playing them 10 to 15 snaps, and Tuesday or Wednesday or something, they got hurt, you know. So I that would have made me feel a little bit better with it. But I love their potential. I love their work ethic, and I think they have the best receivers coach in college football, and you know, that's the proof's in the pudding right there with what he's done here in his 3 years with that position group. So I'm very confident in that getting done.
When would you like to have a resolution on the quarterback competition, and how do you weigh Dylan's college experience versus AJ being here for 2 years and having been able to learn your system?
Yeah, I don't. It's going to be based on their performance out there on the practice field, and you know, doing this as long as I have, it becomes apparent at some point. You certainly hope that is the case, that it becomes apparent. And when that time comes, you know, Coach and I will sit down and talk about it, and you know, ultimately he'll make that decision. You know, he'll want my input, but he's going to make that decision with it. But it'll play itself out. I'm not in any hurry or anything like that. You know, they both need a lot of experiences right now, so I'm hopeful that we can end spring ball with both of them in a good position, that when we get to training camp, hey, let's go and see where we're at. But who knows? I mean, maybe it'll play out differently. I don't control that.
How different do you expect the operation to be now with Demir as as assistant OC?
I don't know. I don't see it as any different. You know, he's been an integral part of what we've done here. He's done a fantastic job for us. He has an unbelievable future in this profession. I feel blessed that you know, he's part of this team. You know, but as far as our process goes, there's not going to be any changes. We've always been everywhere I've been a collaborative type of person. Everybody has their roles and areas that, different strengths and weaknesses and areas that we can lean on. And I lean heavily on Coach Shaw.
You're reunited with Jim Turner, coaching the offensive line. I guess in his time here so far, what have you seen from him as a coach and how the guys in that room have kind of taken to him?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's always nice when you've worked with somebody and, you're crystal clear with your vision for what it's going to be like when they get here. And it's been a while since Coach Turner and I have been together, but it's exactly as I visioned it. I think one of his strengths has always been his ability to connect with the players, and I see that happening right now with it, and I see them starting to take on his personality. So I'm really excited about where that group's going to go.
How different do you see KJ Duff playing a role from this team from a leadership standpoint coming into the season?
Yeah, I think just seeing him right out when we started out in the wintertime, in the weight room, taking on that leadership role, which was really good to see. I'm sure Coach had talked to him about it. There's no better person at teaching leadership than Coach. So he meets with those guys, those key players on the team, and talks to them about leading. But KJ's a natural leader, and he's taken that role on really well and done a great job so far.
You guys don't throw a lot of screen passes since you've been here. Is that a philosophical thing? Is that personnel? And I guess just why is that the case?
You might see some this year. You know what I mean? I've been known to surprise you every now and then, haven't I? But yeah, I mean, I'm not adverse to the screen passes in any way. And did you sneak in my office and look on my grease board? Because one of the things I got written up there is screens, that we're investigating and looking at and just seeing how they fit. One of the cool things about spring ball for me is the constant development of the players, the incremental improvement every day, and you don't have any other concerns than that. And then when spring ball's over, being able to take a look at what our pieces are and where do we got to expand, where do we got to contract with it, what are the new wrinkles need to be to take advantage of what our strengths and weaknesses are going to be from a personnel standpoint. But I do think that there's merit to that question, and I'm definitely pondering it and looking at it and thinking about it and wondering if we have the right people to invest in that.
Kind of sticking with that, how important was it to bring in another running back knowing you already have Antoine and Jay Sean?
Yeah, I think that we felt like we needed to add some depth at that position and competition, and I don't think it was 100% certainty that we had to do that, but when we thought Clay was the right fit, from a skill standpoint and a work ethic standpoint, and we're excited to work with them and go with that. But I never feel like you have enough running backs. Unfortunately, I've had seasons where, we've lost 4 guys and we've been down to the 5th guy, with it, and then had to move somebody from another position to be the backup in that. So you never feel great about that running back position. You're always looking to add depth, and we found a guy that we thought we could. And I love the way the kid's been working so far.
Final question?
You have a history using tight ends, and you lost Kenny and Colin last year. Who do you see really filling in that role now, because you guys didn't take anybody in the portal? Aside from Cam,
Did you say I have a history of using the tight ends?
Yeah, in Minnesota.
I thought the guys were always asking me about why I haven't been using the tight ends. No, we feel really good about our group of guys that we have there, and we'll watch and see how they develop. And Kenny had a certain skill set that we try to take advantage of, and we'll try to do the same thing, with these guys. Again, evaluating where we think, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. Let's accentuate their strengths. Let's try to limit their weaknesses, and we'll do the same thing with those guys. But right now, we're just business as usual, and we'll worry about that at the end of the spring.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you guys.